Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes Mr. Grothman from Wisconsin.
Sure. I'm sorry we had another briefing in the building, so I don't want to go over past things. But during your initial testimony, Ms. Rarick, you talked about people being threatened who are whistleblowers. Do you know who those people were? Were they like people who made money off of this, political operatives? You know, could you elaborate on that a little?
All right, folks, buckle up. We're diving deep into a congressional hearing that exposes some truly outrageous stuff coming out of Minnesota's state government. We're talking about threats, political maneuvering, and a system so broken it's hard to believe. Get ready because we're about to pull back the curtain on how some politicians are really playing the game, and it's not pretty.
Yes, thank you. So the people that were doing the threatening were the supervisors and directors within the state agencies.
So state employees were physically threatening whistleblowers.
They were saying things like, what happens if you lose your home, right? Because if you lose your job, you lose your home. They had pictures in their personnel files of their own homes and their cars. They asked where their children went to school and where their bus stop was. So there was direct threats and indirect threats.
Okay. Were any of these people brought to justice, or this is just the way they deal with things in Minnesota?
You know, it's an interesting thing within the Walz administration. Those people were promoted.
He just defines evil, doesn't he?
Whoa, he just defines evil, doesn't he? That's not a casual remark, folks. That's a gut-wrenching indictment of a governor who presides over an administration where threatening whistleblowers, asking about their kids' bus stops and showing pictures of their homes, is not only tolerated but rewarded with promotions. This isn't some banana republic. This is happening in an American state. It shows a complete breakdown of ethics and accountability. When you punish people for doing the right thing and promote those who intimidate, you're not just creating a toxic work environment, you're actively cultivating corruption. It's a dark mirror reflecting what happens when power goes unchecked, and it's terrifying.
Almost Vice President of the United States. There's a good book out there called The Tragedy of American Compassion. In it, they went over the history of welfare and whether it should be done by the state or done privately. They pointed out the danger that certain nefarious politicians would always want more welfare because they were buying votes. Do either one of you on the political realm of things feel that perhaps a motive for all the crookedness is, given the size of government today, the important who wins elections? Were they motivated a little bit by getting votes of groups of people? Is this a danger to we're not a democracy, of course, but is it a danger to our form of government?
So I'll answer really quickly and then I'll pass it over to Representative Hudson. The caveat to this, which is so bizarre in Minnesota, is the fact that state employees, by and large, are Democrats and they vote Democrat. And the Walz administration, including Flanagan and his former chief of staff, Schmitter, were so brutal that these former Democrat employees want nothing to do with the Democrat Party anymore in Minnesota because they have been treated so horrifically.
What's so sinister about this is that you're right, that it absolutely is for electoral benefit and political benefit, but it's sold to one half of the population, and to the independents and to the conservatives, as we're giving people a hand up. We're going to help people who are in need. We're going to give them a temporary way back into working life. But they've set up an industry that's perpetual, where people just stay where they're at.
Right. So there's really an electoral incentive to make sure people don't get out of poverty. I used to be in the state legislature myself in Wisconsin.
Did you catch that? An electoral incentive to make sure people don't get out of poverty. Let that sink in. This isn't about helping people. It's about creating a permanent dependency class. They sell it as compassion, as a hand up. But what they're really building is a political machine fueled by perpetual need. It's the ultimate bait and switch. Promise help, deliver just enough to keep people from self-sufficiency, and then harvest their votes. It's cynical, it's manipulative, and it's the exact opposite of what government should be doing. We need to empower people, not entrap them in a cycle of dependency for political gain.
And I know that when we put together your budget, you have Fed funds, unlike money that Wisconsin was getting in through our own income or sales tax, may be careful with every dollar that's flowing through. And I'm trying to think what we can do to prevent this, because you're always going to have given political parties who think they can benefit from government largesse. And I think government by its nature is sometimes a little sloppy. The Minnesota government would be a little bit more careful here if on the various programs, and they varies from program to program, but if the state had to pick up 10 or 15 or 20 or 30% of the program so that they had skin in the game.
Yes, in a lot of these programs, the state does have skin in the game. So many of them, Minnesota roughly has a 50-50 Medicaid match. So many of them, it's federal tax dollars, but it's also state tax dollars. So we are paying for it twice, for our state tax dollars and then when we pay our federal.
I know, I think Wisconsin, when I was there, it was about a 60-40 match with the feds picking up 60. And that came into play. But I gather there's some programs on here that maybe the state match is 0. Is that accurate?
I would have to look at each program. I don't know for sure.
I'll ask you, just as state legislators, and different state legislators look at this question differently. Do you think as a country on some of these programs, we should be asking some of the programs that are 100% Fed funded now, we'd be better off if they were maybe 70% Fed funded or 75% Fed funded, so the states that have a little bit more of a skin in the game, I'll put it that way. And a concern I would have, insofar as there are programs which the state is picking up nothing, really the incentive is to have more graft because you just bring in Fed funds for the state.
Yes, sir. So we need to make sure the states have skin in the game so that they administer the programs properly, because otherwise their incentive is to draw down more federal money to take the burden off state taxpayers. But we're all taxpayers, so somebody's paying. There's no such thing as a free lunch.
Right, and not just no such thing as a free lunch. It encourages state legislators to look the other way because you're just bringing that money into the state.
Exactly. The free money illusion strikes again. When states get 100% federally funded programs, it's like giving a teenager a credit card with no limit and no accountability. Why would they be careful with spending when it's not their money? State legislators have zero incentive to scrutinize these programs. They just keep the federal spigot wide open, even if the programs are wasteful or ineffective. It's not free money, folks. It's your money, laundered through Washington, D.C. before it comes back with strings attached and half of it gone to administrative bloat. We need skin in the game at every level.
I kind of felt that way about Medicaid, but thanks.
I'm sorry, Glenn. Gentlemen, time's expired on that. Chair recognizes, who's next?
This hearing really pulls back the curtain on the ugly side of politics and government overreach. From threatening whistleblowers to creating dependency for votes, it's a stark reminder of why we need constant vigilance. What do you think? Is this just the cost of doing business in politics, or is it something we can actually change? Let us know in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe for more unfiltered takes.